You know that feeling when something seems too good to be true, but you push that nagging voice aside because you really want it to be real? Yeah. That was me standing in the dusty lot of Jerry's friendly auto deals on the outskirts of Austin, Texas, staring at a 2019 Chevy Tahoe like it was a golden retriever puppy in a basket. It had beige leather seats, just a whisper under 60,000 miles, and Jerry, a barrel-bellied man in his late 50s with sweat permanently staining the rim of his cap, swore it was grandma-owned, only driven to church and HB. The Carfax was clean. The price wasn't suspiciously low, but it was reasonable. Like a trap just well enough baited. Looks like you've got a good eye, Jerry grinned, his breath thick with spearmint. She's a gem. I wouldn't sell her to just anybody. It had been a long year. Work had been brutal, and I'd been planning this road trip for months to finally see my brother Mark in Virginia, who I hadn't hugged in person since before COVID. I wanted this. Needed it. So I handed over the check, shook Jerry's calloused hand, and even blushed a little when he threw in a verbal warranty. Said if anything happened in the first couple weeks, he'd make it right. I left the lot feeling like I'd won something. 2 days later, the Tahoe died with a sputtering wheeze on a stretch of Highway 70 outside Clarksville, Arkansas. I was alone, 3 hours from the nearest person I knew, parked on the gravel shoulder with semi-trucks screaming past like angry giants. When the check engine light came on, I thought maybe it was a sensor glitch. But when the power steering failed and the whole dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree, I pulled over and started crying before I even turned the key off. The tow truck took 3 hours. The motel I limped into after was the kind of place with peeling floral wallpaper and a mystery stain on the comforter. I remember sitting on the stiff bed with my knees pulled to my chest, staring at my phone, trying not to believe what the mechanic had said. "Lady," he told me, wiping grease off his palms and shaking his head, "this engine's toast. Someone juiced it with engine oil thickener and stop leak. Classic patch job. I'd guess this thing was dying for a while, they just poured snake oil into it to hide the knock-in. You got scammed." I stared at him slack-jawed. "But the Carfax?" "Sure, if it never went to a real shop, those reports don't show everything. Looks like they were just buying time." I called Jerry. It rang once, then straight to voicemail. I texted, "Hey, the Tahoe broke down in Arkansas. Mechanic says there's serious pre-existing engine damage. You said you'd make it right." The bubbles never came. I waited an hour. Then another. When I checked his Facebook, I was blocked. And that's when something inside me snapped. Not the weepy, defeated kind of snap. The cold, clear kind. The kind where your tears dry mid-fall and you hear your own voice say, "No, not this time." I wasn't staying silent. And Jerry? He had no idea what kind of woman he'd mess with. Back in Austin, the sun was blistering, but my mind was colder than a locked freezer. I sat in my small duplex, laptop open, 3 different browser tabs running, one for Facebook, one for the Texas Attorney General's Consumer Protection site, and one showing a blinking cursor as I filled out a fake Facebook profile. Meet Lauren Gibbs, recently divorced, recently relocated to Texas, and looking for a reliable used SUV for her teenage son. Her profile picture was a stock image of a friendly brunette, carefully chosen to look just sweet enough to inspire trust but not glamorous enough to raise suspicion. I gave her a backstory that sounded just like mine, earnest, cautious, mid-budget, and a little desperate. And Jerry? He bid in 2 hours. "You're in luck," he messaged. "Got a clean 2017 Explorer, 1 owner, low miles, and I can work with you on price. Come by the lot tomorrow." I stared at his message, my jaw tight. He was still doing it. Still out there with his belly laughs and handshakes and grandmother lore, just smiling his way into people's bank accounts. And I'd be damned if I let him keep getting away with it. I didn't go to the lot. Not yet. I started collecting. First came the VIN numbers. Jerry had a habit of posting photos of the vehicles on his business page, license plates visible, sometimes even the full VIN on windshield stickers. With a little digging, I matched plates to reports on AutoCheck and cross-referenced maintenance logs where I could find them. And that's when the pattern appeared. Cars that had been in minor collisions and flipped fast, some with salvage histories cleaned up via auction. A few had unusually long gaps in service history, and some had weird resale spikes as if the mileage had been rolled back. Then came the stories. I posted anonymously on a local Facebook group asking if anyone had bought from Jerry's Friendly Auto Deals and had engine issues. I expected maybe 1 or 2 responses. I got 11 in the first day. One woman said the brakes failed the week after purchase. Another's air conditioning died en route to San Antonio in July. But the worst? A TikTok video. A teenager named Riley had made a post titled, POV, when the friendly dealer sells your mom a car with water in the oil. It had 84,000 views and climbing. In the comments, 2 more users chimed in about Jerry. By now, I wasn't just angry. I was building a case. I called a consumer rights attorney I found online, Maria Alvarez, specialist in used car fraud under the Texas Deceptive Trade Practices Act. She wore no-nonsense glasses and didn't waste words. I've seen these types before, she said after reviewing my notes. If you're telling the truth, and I believe you are, this isn't just misrepresentation. It's intentional deception. We're talking fraud, revocation of license territory. You ready to pursue this? More than ready, I said, my voice calm. Let's bring the house down. By the next week, I had a folder on my desktop titled Operation Lemonade. Inside were subfolders, VIN reports, user testimonies, screenshots of Jerry's listings, and a spreadsheet tracking over 20 customer complaints. Some were as old as 2017. Most ended the same way, breakdowns within days or weeks, blocked numbers, and Jerry ghosting faster than a Tinder date who asked to split the bill. Maria, my lawyer, was methodical. She filed a formal demand letter to Jerry under the Texas Deceptive Trade Practices Act, listing my case in detail, the doctored engine, the verbal warranty, and the financial damages, including the $2,800 mechanic estimate from Arkansas just to diagnose the Tahoe's mess. He'll ignore this, Maria warned. But it starts a paper trail. That's step 1. Step 2? Public pressure. That's when I brought in Alex Wong, a local journalist who ran a consumer affairs column on KVUE News in Austin. He was skeptical at first. I showed him the receipts. Literally. The folder. The screenshots. Riley's TikTok. The mechanic's written statement. Alex's eyes widened by page 3. Wait. He's still operating. Every day, I said. And smiling. Alex called me the next morning. We're running it. I'll need a filmed interview, but we can blur your face and change your name if needed. No blur, I said. I want my face on this. The piece aired 2 days later. Friendly dealer or fraudster? KVUE investigates local seller accused of scamming car buyers. It was short, just 5 minutes. But it hit hard. They played a clip of Riley's TikTok. Showed my Tahoe getting towed off the Arkansas highway. Then my interview. He told me it was grandma-owned. Clean Carfax. Then it died in the middle of nowhere. When I tried to reach him, blocked. That's not an accident. That's a pattern. Within hours, Jerry's Facebook page was flooded. This happened to me too. Where's my refund, Jerry? See you in court. But Jerry? Radio silent. Until the next morning when Lauren Gibbs, my fake profile, got one last message. Hey, Lauren. I think you're not who you say you are. Nice try. Watch yourself. I stared at the message, heart pounding. He knew. But it was too late. The Attorney General had the case now. Maria had filed formal complaints with the Texas DMV, the Department of Licensing and Regulation, and the Better Business Bureau. Alex's segment had gone viral, over 300,000 views across platforms by Friday. And me? I sat at my kitchen table, drinking cold coffee, staring at that smug little, watch yourself, message. Out loud to no one I said, you first, Jerry. A week after the news story aired, Maria called me during lunch. Rachel, she said, tone clipped but excited, you need to check your email. I opened it mid-bite, fingers still greasy from a sad sandwich. The subject line read, Notice of Investigation, Texas DMV Enforcement Division. Attached was a formal letter confirming they were launching an investigation into Jerry's dealership, based on allegations of odometer fraud, misrepresentation, and failure to disclose material vehicle defects. They've opened a fraud case, Maria said. This is real. They've also temporarily frozen his license pending review. My hands were trembling. He can't sell anymore? Not legally, she replied. But keep your eyes open. If he tries to offload inventory some other way, we document it. That evening, I did what I hadn't done in days. I drove by Jerry's lot. It was surreal. Where there had once been a row of used trucks and SUVs lined up like proud soldiers, there were now 3 lonely cars, one with a flat tire, one parked at a weird angle like it had been left in a hurry. The open sign was off. The flags that usually flapped in the wind were still. And the little, smiling Jerry cutout that used to wave at customers? It was face down in the dirt. I parked across the street and just watched. No foot traffic. No customers. Just silence. The next morning, Jerry's business page was gone. Deleted. As if he thought wiping it would erase the month's years of complaints, reviews, and cached evidence. But the internet doesn't forget, and I had saved everything. That weekend, KVU ran a follow-up. More victims have come forward in the case of Jerry's friendly auto deals. Investigators now believe this may have been a long-standing pattern of vehicle fraud affecting dozens of Texans. Alex's voiceover played over B-roll of the shuttered lot, a few abandoned cars, and my own Tahoe in the mechanic's garage. I'd given them access to film it, stripped down, rust-eaten, like a carcass someone tried to resuscitate with a Band-Aid. The comments exploded again. That's my car in that story. He lied to us about the mileage. We need a class action. But the best moment? When a user posted a grainy video of Jerry yelling at a news crew from behind a screen door. "This is harassment," he barked. "I'm the victim here." The victim. I watched that clip maybe 12 times. And all I could think was, the collapse has started. And it's only just begun. Maria moved fast. She filed suit in Travis County under the Texas Deceptive Trade Practices Act for fraudulent inducement, intentional misrepresentation, and breach of verbal warranty. I was the lead plaintiff, but 3 more victims joined within days. Our case became a small collective, different backgrounds, same story, friendly Jerry, broken promises, and cars that died like clockwork. The first pretrial hearing was in late March. The courtroom was cold, one of those bland beige chambers with humming fluorescence and a stale carpet smell. I sat at the plaintiff's table in a navy blazer, hands clenched in my lap, heart thudding. Jerry sat across the room, smug in a cheap suit that strained across his gut. His lawyer, a slick-haired man with crocodile eyes, whispered in his ear between glances at us. When the judge asked for opening statements, Maria stood with the stillness of a woman who had done this 100 times and had already won in her mind. "Your Honor, we intend to prove not only negligence, but a pattern of fraud. My client was sold a vehicle that was deliberately disguised to conceal critical mechanical failure. The defendant did not just lie, he engineered a sale designed to silence red flags until after the check cleared. That is the definition of bad faith." Jerry's lawyer scoffed. "These are used cars. No guarantees. My client acted in good faith. These plaintiffs are angry about wear and tear, nothing more." But Maria had receipts. Literally. Mechanic reports, screenshots, the TikTok, the lawyer letters. She handed over a packet so thick the judge flipped through it for several minutes in silence. And then, the quiet moment I'll never forget. When Jerry took the stand. Maria didn't yell. Didn't pace. She just walked up and asked him a single question. "Mr. Walker, did you personally inspect the engine on the 2019 Chevrolet Tahoe before selling it to my client?" He shifted. "I gave it a once-over, yeah." "Did you disclose that you added any oil additives or stop-leak products?" "No," he muttered. "So you did add them. I mean, sometimes it helps with noise. It's standard in the business. But you didn't tell my client?" Silence. "Mr. Walker?" He looked down at the table. "No." The courtroom went still. The judge scribbled something. Maria turned and sat down like she'd just knocked over a domino. Later that day, I walked by his old lot. Empty. Not just of cars, of signage. The giant yellow Friendly Auto Deals banner had been stripped off the fence. Even the little wooden shack he used as an office was padlocked, the windows dark. I stood there a long moment, the wind tugging at my jacket. It looked like a grave. And I wasn't done burying things yet. The judgment didn't come that day. But the tide had turned and Jerry knew it. 2 days after his courtroom squirmfest, Maria called me again. Guess who reached out for a settlement? I blinked. He wants to settle? He's nervous. His dealership license is under full review now, and he's looking to cut his losses before the dominoes fall. What's he offering? $9,000. Refund plus a little extra. No admission of guilt, naturally. I stared at the phone. The Tahoe had cost me $11,800, not to mention the tow, the motel, and the therapy bills for the absolute rage spiral this had thrown me into. Not enough, I said. Maria chuckled. Didn't think so. I'll let him know. Meanwhile, Alex Wong published a full-length investigative piece online titled The Fall of a Friendly Dealer. It was scathing. Not just about Jerry, but about the whole underregulated industry of independent car lots operating under verbal promises and handshake deals. In the middle of the article, Alex quoted me. He thought because I was nice, I'd go away quietly. I'm not built that way. If I stay quiet, someone else ends up on the side of the road. It went viral. Again. And this time, it wasn't just social media. Consumer Reports linked to it. A lawyer in Houston offered to start a statewide class action. Even someone from the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles emailed Maria directly asking for a statement from me. I think he's done, Maria said. The license review panel's meeting next week. This is the nail in the coffin. On a rainy Tuesday, I got a letter in the mail. Official state letterhead. I opened it slowly, heart tight in my chest. Jerry's used car dealership license had been revoked. Effective immediately. He could never legally sell vehicles in the state of Texas again. I set the letter on my kitchen table and stared at it. It was quiet in the house. Just the low hum of the fridge. Rain tapping the windows. But inside me there was a storm of something else entirely. Not victory. Not gloating. Just a deep, clean sense of rightness. Like finally exhaling after holding your breath for months. The trial moved forward anyway, even after Jerry lost his license. Maria wanted damages, not just a refund, but compensation for the stress, deception, and, as she put it in her closing arguments, the calculated exploitation of a trusting consumer. We sat in court again, this time with more confidence than nerves. I wore the same navy blazer, but I felt taller in it now, not because of the heels, but because I wasn't here to plead. I was here to collect. Jerry looked different, too. Smaller. His hair hadn't been dyed in a while, gray roots creeping out. He didn't meet my eyes once. When the verdict came, I barely breathed. The judge's voice was flat, but his words felt like 1,000 tiny fireworks going off inside me. The court finds in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant is ordered to pay $11,800 in restitution, plus $5,000 in punitive damages for intentional misrepresentation and cover the plaintiff's legal fees. $16,800. Maria squeezed my shoulder as I sat there stunned. He tried to cheat me out of a road trip. Out of safety. Out of dignity. Now he was paying me interest on all of it. Outside the courthouse, there were no news cameras this time. No crowds. Just gray sky and the sound of traffic echoing down Lavaca Street. But Maria and I stood on the steps for a moment, breathing it in. You know, she said, this wasn't just about you. I nodded. I know. That's why I couldn't let it go. Later that night, I poured myself a whiskey neat, which I normally hated, and sat on the porch listening to the creak of the wind chimes. It didn't taste good, but it tasted like justice. And for the first time in a long time, I felt okay just sitting still. 2 weeks after the verdict, curiosity got the better of me. I drove back to where Jerry's lot used to be, the scrappy patch of gravel and broken promises off FM 969, nestled between a shuttered donut shop and a payday loan office. It looked even smaller now. The plywood office had been cleared out, windows empty, door chain locked. A faded outline of the sign still clung to the fence like a ghost. Friendly auto deals, barely visible, sun-bleached and sad. No cars. No flags. Just silence. But what caught my eye was the handwritten sign duct taped to the chain link gate. Rental available. Inquire with landowner. Beneath that, a phone number. Jerry's was gone. I got out of the car and just stood there, gravel crunching under my sneakers. A young couple pulled into the donut shop lot, glanced at the space, then at me. The guy gave a little shrug. What was this place? He asked, curious. I smiled faintly. A bad memory. I didn't say more. I didn't need to. Later that evening, I got a message on Facebook, not from Jerry, but from someone I didn't recognize. A woman named Tasha. She wrote, Hey Rachel, I saw your story on the news a few weeks back. Just wanted to say thank you. My mom almost bought a car from Jerry last fall, but something felt off. When we saw your story, it confirmed everything. You probably saved us a nightmare. Thank you. I stared at that message for a long time. I hadn't saved everyone. But maybe I'd stop the next person. Or the one after that. That space where his business once stood? It wasn't just a vacant lot anymore. It was proof that even the slickest liars, the smarmiest smiles, can be held accountable when someone stands up. One person with a folder of screenshots. One story told out loud. And one very determined woman who refused to stay quiet. A month passed. Life moved on. I got the check, a thick white envelope with a court seal and a number that, once upon a time, would have meant everything to me. I deposited it with no fanfare, no celebration. I just stared at the receipt in my banking app and thought, this is what it looks like when justice finally pays out. Then one afternoon, an envelope appeared in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name scrawled in sloppy pen. Inside was a letter. Rachel. You didn't have to go that far. You got your money. You ruined my business. I hope you're satisfied. Some people don't come back from things like this. J. No apology. No ownership. Just bitterness and veiled threats. I sat with that letter a while, turning it over in my hands. He still didn't get it. He thought the money was the revenge. But it wasn't. The revenge was the silence that followed. The empty lot. The names that piled onto the lawsuit after mine. The state license board blacklisting his name. The story that would follow him anytime he tried to start over in this business. The revenge was knowing that no one else would get stuck on the side of a highway at night with an engine full of molasses and lies. Not on my watch. I didn't respond. I filed the letter away. In case he ever tried anything again, I wanted everything documented. Later that week, Maria emailed. She was representing another client, someone Jerry had scammed back in 2021. She asked if I'd be willing to give a short statement for their case. You don't have to, she wrote. Just thought I'd ask. I responded immediately. Absolutely. I'll do it in person if they want. He picked the wrong people to mess with. Because this wasn't just my story anymore. It was a record. And I wasn't done writing it. 1 year later, I finally took that road trip. Not in a Tahoe. I couldn't look at one without tasting motor oil and betrayal, but in a sturdy Subaru Outback that I bought from a dealership with every paper trail triple-checked, every bolt inspected, every mile accounted for. I drove east through pine-shadowed highways, past rusting fences and gas stations with sun-faded signs, all the way to my brother Mark's place in Virginia. I pulled into his driveway just as the sky turned to syrupy orange, that kind of hush before the crickets take over. He opened the door and just stood there a second. You made it, he said, grinning like he hadn't seen me cry over that cursed Tahoe on FaceTime a year ago. Yeah, I said. Took the scenic route through hell, but here I am. That night, we sat on his back porch with beers in hand, the quiet kind of evening only siblings can share without needing to fill the silence. I told him everything, the bait, the breakdown, the lawsuit, the verdict, the letter. He didn't interrupt once. You know, Mark finally said, you used to think stuff like this only happened to other people. I nodded. I did. And now I know better, I said. But I also know how to fight. Because here's the thing, for a while I blamed myself. For trusting too quickly. For not spotting the red flags. For being just one more woman who got lied to by a man who smiled through his teeth. But I'm done carrying that shame. Jerry didn't win. He underestimated me, thought I'd cry, pay a mechanic, and move on. Thought I'd stay small, stay quiet, stay embarrassed. But I turned every insult into evidence. Every lie into leverage. Every sleepless night into strategy. And in the end, he lost everything. What I learned is this: sometimes justice doesn't roar. It doesn't come with dramatic courtroom speeches or slamming gavels. Sometimes it comes like this, in small, cold, patient steps. In screenshots and spreadsheets and subpoenas. In your own name, calmly written across a check you were never supposed to hold. And sometimes it looks like this: a quiet porch, a beer in your hand, and nothing left to prove. That's the thing about revenge. When it's righteous, you don't need to shout. You just need to win.